pushing her thumbs along her lower lash line to clear away remnants of the spontaneous sob session. Kate smiled at her and pulled her in for a hug. "No, we won't," she replied, locking eyes with Amelia, whose smooth, pale face was scrunching again into a fresh round of tears. "But," Kate went on, "that doesn't mean we'll never laugh again, or be happy again." Clara nodded into Kate's shoulder and lifted her head. "I'm fine," she said. "We're fine." "True," Megan replied, tugging Clara onto the love seat with her and leaning back into the pillowy cushions. "We're fine. It was her time. Oh boy, was it her time, you know." Kate eyed Megan. After a brief sigh, Megan brushed a black strand of hair out of her eyes and offered an explanation. She was going downhill, deteriorating even. She stopped and smiled, a sentimental, weepy smile, her green eyes turning glassy. For all we know, the poor thing was driving herself mad. I'd imagine the disease does that, right? Anyway, I don't think Nora would have wanted to be what she was becoming. Megan had called their mother by her first name since Megan was a teenager, and Nora had long given up the fight against it. It no longer felt disrespectful, in fact, just one of those quirks a family had. Regardless of the name matter, Megan was right. It was their mom's time. And it was also time for the reception to begin. Kate and her sisters had left the burial ahead of everyone by a mere 10 minutes. All they had to do when they got to her house was set up the food and flowers. Relatives had agreed to handle everything else. Kate wasn't sold on the paper products and plastic utensils, but the others overruled her, arguing that the last thing they needed after Mom's funeral was to do dishes. Kate would argue that dishes would be the exact sort of thing she'd need. Cleaning, to Kate, was therapy. She checked her wristwatch, a thin leather strap with a silver face. "They'll be here soon," she announced, and glanced around the room, anxious. On the folding table, now framed perfectly by 2 sentinel lavender plants, sat orderly trays of cold cuts and cheese, a platter of fruits and vegetables, and a bald spot at the far end dedicated for everything else due to arrive with their aunts and cousins. Amelia fussed with the memorial setting, which she had first established on a second square folding table, only to move it to the coffee table, and then finally to the back of the upright piano that took up the far corner of the room. "Does this work?" she wondered aloud. Kate joined her and tweaked the centerpiece, a glass frame behind which preened their mother in a formal portrait. No husband sat next to Nora. No daughters crowded in behind Nora. Just Nora. And that sort of photograph was perfect, because it was Nora's day, Kate had reminded her sisters, not theirs. Only Amelia had argued, but now she seemed pleased enough. "I remember when Mom had that photo taken," she murmured. Kate felt her throat close up a bit, but swallowed it down. The crying was supposed to end with the funeral. She promised herself that as hostess and eldest daughter, it was her duty to see to the perfect reception, a light, happy affair. In fact, it would be the last event she would have in her home, because soon she'd be moving, though to where exactly was still unclear. "I'm not trying to gossip, but did any of you see Matt Fiorillo's date at the service last night?" Amelia asked, pushing a strand of her long brown hair back into position behind her ear as she went for a cheese cube too. Matt Fiorillo was, if recent reports were accurate, a local property investor. Also an old family friend. An old flame, too. One who Kate hoped would stay squarely in her past. But there he was at the funeral. Typical. Megan chimed in next. She might be a prostitute. Kate shook her head and glared. "Enough, you two," she threatened through a tight voice, then pressed her fingers to her shoulders.